Welcome to our daily reflection for this Friday, June 14th. And of course, every Friday we think of Good Friday, Jesus' sacrifice in giving his life for us on the cross. And so we make a little sacrifice for others and for God. So it's good to fast, give something up, abstain from eating meat, whatever it is. It's good to make a sacrifice, especially on Fridays. We remember Good Friday. Well, today I want to really focus on the first reading because it's so powerful and deep. And it's Elijah going on retreat. And it's always good for us to go on retreat and to spend some solitude just hearing the Word of God and putting out the noise of the world and all that. And it's really good, and I recommend to go on a retreat at least once a year. And even if that retreat is just silence and you bring scriptures and the Word of God or some spiritual reading, you can do your own retreat, right? Sometimes I just go off camping and backpacking in the quiet and have a silent retreat that way with a good spiritual book and the Word of God. And I'm also excited that in a few months, starting in this fall in September, we'll have our new campus fully functional and we'll start doing retreats for the laity. So I invite you to come and check out our retreats to come. Now, this invitation, Elijah goes into the wilderness. He goes back to Mount Sinai, actually, back to the beginning. And God discloses himself to Elijah, but first there is a strong, heavy wind, but God is not in the wind, right? And then there's an earthquake, but God's not in the earthquake. Then there's a fire, and God is not in the fire. And of course, those are ways in which Baal, the god of the pagans, manifested himself with earthquakes and strong storms and fire. But God's not in those things because those are things of creation. Those are things within nature. And then after that, in the silence, there is a still small voice. And then Elijah, hides his face in his cloak, right? And so I love that, God disclosed himself in the word, in the voice from the from the burning bush, but now it's in the silence that God discloses himself. And so here we learn about contemplation. And contemplation comes from solitude and quiet and silence. And in that silence, God can speak to our heart in that still, small voice. We can hear the Word of God. And that's really one of the things about contemplation is that we don't hear God in the audible things of creation. Whether it's the great wind or the earthquake or the fire, right? And so it's not something to be felt, to be heard like the wind, to be seen like the fire. And so it's not something heard, not something seen, not something felt. It is in silence. And contemplation's hard because we want to hear God externally because that's how we get our communication. And yet God is beyond creation, right? And so one of the problems of the pagans is that when they worship Baal is they mistake the creation for the creator. But what the Judeo-Christian tradition teaches us is that the creator is beyond, above and beyond the creation. And so the things of creation, don't display and connect us to the creator, right? They might be signposts to God that there is a creator, but they aren't the creator. And so for the contemplative heart, we have to go through a kind of silence and thirst, and we find that we're not satisfied by the things of this world. And that's an important lesson. And so contemplation is oftentimes about absence. We feel the absence of God and we thirst for God in our deepest heart and our soul. And then we begin to discover God. And then our heart and our soul is open to His Word and to His presence. And then we discover His presence, not externally, but internally. And that's the lesson of contemplation. And this is the lesson of St. Teresa of Avila and John of the Cross and the great mystics. And I recommend, if you want a good contemporary writer on contemplation, Father Donald Haggerty, who has wonderful books with Ignatius Press, if you want to learn more about contemplation. But today, let's sit in quiet contemplation and reflect on the question that God asks Elijah when he says to Elijah, "Where are you?" And he actually says, "Why are you here?" And let us, in contemplation, quiet, let God ask us that question. Why are you here? Why are you here? Here in this place, in this space, in this moment in your life. For what purpose has God created you and put you here? That's worth pondering and reflecting on, but it takes putting away the noise and all the distractions of the world and creation to listen to our Creator and let Him ask us why we have been created. May the Lord bless and keep you.
This daily reflection is brought to you thanks to the generous support of the Mission Circle. Join the Mission Circle to help Catholics worldwide understand, live, and share their faith. Sign up at missioncircle.org today.